Hello and welcome to SwitchedOn. Hope you all had a good holiday, and for those of you that received your first Switch this Christmas, welcome aboard and hope you have many years of brilliant gaming with it. I like to drop a few top 10s at the end of the year, and over the next few days I'll be posting a new one each day, so please subscribe and click the bell if you want to be notified when I post them. If you're a regular to SwitchedOn, then you'll know driving games are a favourite genre of mine, so it seemed fitting to start right here with the best driving games released in 2020, so without further ado, let's crack on. Number 10 is one of the later releases in the year on the list, and that is Monster Truck Championship from Big Ben Publishing. These larger than life trucks are great fun to chuck around muddy tracks or smash through caravans and jump onto rows of cars. The video game version is really quite fun most of the time, albeit with a few graphical issues and performance dips when there's lots of action on the screen, which does let things down somewhat. But with a robust career mode and even online racing, you may find some mileage here if you can find it at a decent discount. A game whose sense of speed is at the other end of the spectrum now, and that's TT Isle of Man 2 Racing, which also comes from Big Ben, and that's in at number 9. Building on the really solid first entry on the Switch, this sequel adds a bit more of everything from its career mode choices to new tracks to the aforementioned increase in speed. For this 44-year-old gamer, I found the sense of speed in Isle of Man 2 even more pronounced than that in the already tricky first game, and whilst I applaud developers KT Racing for squeezing more performance out of the Switch, I found it too fast to the point of frustration and spent most of my time off of my bike than on it. Another two-wheeled entry now, and that's the third in the Monster Energy Supercross series, which comes from Milestone Publishing and lands at number 8. This is a good time to be a Switch fan. With a few years under its belt, most developers are squeezing more performance out of it with each iteration, and that's true here with Supercross 3 having better physics, a nicer look and smoother performance, especially in handheld, making it far more enjoyable than the previous entries. Take in a variety of championships across the muddy stadiums of the United States, or even create your own tracks. There's an online mode, although it must be said it's pretty much non-existent in terms of racers sadly, so don't pick this one up for online unless you have players already lined up. This is another solid racing entry on the Switch though, and another that if you can pick up at a bargain price, you'll get a lot of enjoyment from. Now at number 7 is the retro-inspired Hot Shot Racing from Curve Digital. Take the look of Sega's classic Virtua Racing and add in some Ridge Racer handling with the modern arcade twists from various kart racers, add an online mode and you end up with something that looks a little bit like Hot Shot Racing. A bright and colourful flat polygon look and a smoothish 60 frames per second are the backdrop to a variety of standard game modes like a Grand Prix mode, single races and time trials, plus some nice arcade modes like Cops and Robbers and Drive or Explode. There are 8 characters to choose from that each have differing vehicle stats and unlockables, but in the end it all boils down to some fun arcade style racing that's all over too quickly for the single player, but there's plenty to enjoy here while it lasts. More two-wheeled action now and not a petrol tank in sight. Number 6 is the indie mountain bike smash Lonely Mountains Downhill. Coming from Thunderfall Publishing, this game lives up to its name by pitting your lonely biker versus an increasingly deadly set of downhill runs through mountains, forests and parks. Boy is it tough. Clip a protruding tree root or a rock and you'll be over the handlebars and bloody in your nose faster than you can say BMX, but the instant restarts from the generously placed checkpoints suck you in to try over and over, and this war of attrition is one that you can win with repetition and muscle memory. A beautiful flat polygon look is the icing on the cake, and the lack of any in-game music only increases the feeling that it's you versus nature as you hear the babbling brooks and bird song as your tyres crunch over the gravel and mud below. A game that sits on that difficult stool between frustration and addiction, and any sports or racing fan should absolutely own this one. Another indie game smashing out at number 5, and a game that's been on almost more systems than Pac-Man, and that's Mini Moto Racing from Binary Mill, specifically Mini Moto X, an updated version of the original classic for the Nintendo Switch. Fans of classic mini racers like Micro Machines or Skid Marks on the Amiga will be beaming from ear to ear playing this excellent little racing game. Featuring a huge number of races across a variety of different terrains and a similarly large collection of unlicensed cars, although some you may recognise from other games or TV shows, this one certainly ticks the boxes on the content front, especially for the low price. Throw in some excellent modes including a near replica of Rocket League, the ability to play online and a number of camera angles, including most surprisingly an interior view, you've got a game you can throw on for a quick 5-minute blast, or one that you can grind hours away on to get all the unlocks and upgradables. It's been a big year for two-wheelers in 2020, and yet another entry in at number 4 now, and possibly the purest racing game on the Switch. That's MotoGP 20, which is the second entry from publisher Milestone. Whilst my best racing game of 2019 on the Switch, Grid Autosport, does lean towards simulation, it's also pretty accessible for casual players, and where MotoGP takes no prisoners and you'll have to have absolute laser focus just to complete consistent laps before even consider winning championships. Taking into consideration the improved physics this entry has to offer, tyre choice and temperature, bike setup, corner angles, rider weight distribution, these are all required to ensure you're getting the most out of your rocket powered bike. MotoGP still features some blurry graphics, although they are improved somewhat from previous years, but generally things look and sound very nice once on track, and the game features a nice career mode with all the official tracks and riders from the 2019-20 season. Plus the returning electric series Moto E, which is quite different and a nice inclusion again. Highly recommend this one if you want a challenging circuit racer that feels massively rewarding as your skill improves. My number 3 entry was at last a proper truck sim for the Switch after so many budget attempts had tried and failed over the years, and that is the excellent Truck Driver from SwitchedOn. After the less than stellar Xenon Racer, I had my reservations about SwitchedOn releasing a fairly complex open world truck driving game that had at times struggled on the PS4, Xbox and PC, but they found the right developers to bring it to the Switch. My fears were unfounded as Truck Driver both looks on a par with the other versions and also more importantly performs at an almost constant 30 frames a second. This game sees you take control of a trucking company trying to improve your standing in the fictional city in which the game is set, visiting the various local businesses to take on their haulage jobs. With a nice driving model, an array of trucks to buy and upgrade, and a big open world that has a day-night cycle and is interesting to explore, I think the Euro Truck Sim itch has finally been scratched on the Switch. Probably very little surprise in my top 2, but just before I get to them, I just wanted to give a little nod to Gear Club Unlimited 2, which continued to be improved by Microids all throughout 2020, culminating in the excellent Tracks DLC, which finally added circuit racing and some more sim-like elements to an already fairly decent Simcade racer. This was all packaged into a physical release containing all the DLCs, so keep an eye out for that, especially if you see it going cheap at any time. Now my top 2 driving games of 2020 were both excellent ports of older games, both coming from EA, and they are of course Burnout Paradise and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. As I say, both are excellent games, but if I had to put one at the top of the pile, then I'm going to be handing the crown to Need for Speed, which was more sensibly priced, coming in at some £10 cheaper than Burnout, but also in my opinion offering the better gameplay experience in terms of pure racing fun, a wider variety of modes and an excellent online offering. Both games are expertly ported, with Burnout running at 60 frames a second most of the time and Need for Speed coming in at a consistent 30 frames a second, although Burnout did take some concessions to achieve that mark by massively scaling back the traffic around Paradise City. All of the DLC that had been previously included for both games were included in the price of entry, and having a look round just before recording this video can see that both are now available for around £20 to £25 physically, which does represent excellent value. So there you go, that's my top 10 racing games and one honourable mention of 2020. Let me know below if you've picked up any of these titles this year and what would be your number 1 pick. I suspect the comments will flip-flop between Burnout and Need for Speed, but I'd still love to hear what you think. Stay tuned for more top 10 lists all this week, and please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. It would be very much appreciated. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks everyone, bye bye.